I was standing in the rain outside our garage when Tyler Brandt chose a hotel room in Cincinnati over driving his wife to the appointment he promised to help me keep. My shoulder still burned from the crash. My insurance papers were pressed under my arm, and the passenger door was close enough for me to touch. Tyler held the key fob against his palm and looked past me toward the street, like my pain was traffic he needed to beat. I told him I could not drive myself, and he glanced at his phone before saying I should call a rideshare because Brenna was already waiting. That name landed harder than the rain, because he had called this weekend a sales conference, not a getaway with another woman. The message still glowed on the dashboard screen when he shifted his body between me and the car. Brenna, Tate, asking if he remembered the nice shirt for dinner. Tyler saw me read it and did not even bother with a clean lie. Only rubbed his forehead and said, "June, do not start this right now." I asked if he was really leaving me standing there after promising to take me, and his answer was that the room was prepaid. The drive was long, and I always knew how to make him look cruel. I stopped reaching for the door when he locked it from the fob, because that tiny click sounded more honest than anything he had said all year. 2 houses down, Holly Pritchard's porch light came on, but Tyler only checked the sleeve of his jacket and lifted his suitcase into the back. He told me not to turn a private problem into a scene, then drove off before the rain had finished smearing the ink on my appointment packet. My phone buzzed before his taillights disappeared, and his text was almost gentle in the ugliest way. "Do not make this bigger than it has to be." Tyler Brandt had not become selfish in one night, and that was why I had missed it for so long. At family cookouts, he carried plates for older women and laughed like a man raised right. At the showroom, he sold SUVs by talking about car seats and the husband who made sure everyone got home safely. At home, he stepped over laundry baskets and treated every small need of mine like proof I had become too much. I taught English at a public high school, so my days were bells, late essays, parent emails, and teenagers pretending not to care. After the crash, I kept teaching with one shoulder stiff, then came home to insurance forms and a claim appointment Tyler had promised to drive me to because my car was still at the body shop. He kissed my forehead and said, "I have it handled. June, stop worrying," which sounded loving until he turned the same weekend into a sales trip. 3 days later, he bought a new shirt, called Cincinnati Unavoidable, and started taking his phone into the bathroom. Brenna Tate was not a stranger from some cheap secret life. I had heard her name once before, folded inside a story about a hotel event. A woman who understood difficult schedules and never made him feel guilty for wanting more. When I asked why he kept mentioning her, Tyler smiled without looking up and said, "Not every woman in my life is a threat to you." That sentence stayed because innocent men usually defend the truth, not the woman waiting inside their lie. The first real proof was not dramatic. It was a paper bag in the laundry room trash with a cologne receipt, a folded tag from a pale blue dress shirt, and the date from the afternoon he told me we needed to be careful with money. His phone lit up on the dryer, then went dark before I could read more than Brenna's name. By dinner, his passcode had changed, and Tyler acted offended when I noticed, like the lock was my insult instead of his confession. By the time Tyler rolled his suitcase through the hall, I had already changed into the black sweater that hid the brace under my coat. My claim folder sat inside a plastic sleeve because rain had been in the forecast all morning, and I still believed preparation could hold a day together. He came out smelling like the cologne from the laundry room receipt, with his weekend bag in one hand and his phone tucked face down against his thigh. I asked if he was taking me first, and his eyes moved to the folder before they moved to me. He said Cincinnati was not optional. Like that explained the shirt, the cologne, and the way he had stopped touching me without making it look intentional. I asked who Brenna Tate really was, and for half a second, he did not have the right lie ready. Then his face settled into that tired husband expression he used when he wanted me to feel unreasonable. And he said Brenna understood pressure without turning every schedule conflict into a marriage trial. I looked at the suitcase, then at the car keys in his hand. and asked why another woman's understanding mattered more than the appointment he had promised to drive me to. Tyler exhaled through his nose. Not guilty, just inconvenienced, and told me I always picked the worst possible moment to make him feel trapped. He said the crash had been minor. The insurance office would reschedule, and grown women handled things without dragging their husbands into every errand. I told him this was not an errand, and he glanced toward the driveway as if the car might leave without him. When I reached for the passenger door, he stepped in front of it and clicked the lock before my fingers touched the handle. That sound emptied something in me. Holly Pritchard's porch light flicked on 2 houses down, and Tyler noticed it before he noticed my face. He lowered his voice and warned me not to embarrass him in front of the neighbors, while the wind pushed one wet page from my folder across the concrete. I bent to catch it with my bad shoulder burning, and Holly was already crossing the grass as Tyler pulled away, leaving me with proof in my hands and his warning still sitting in the rain. Holly reached me before I could decide whether to chase the paper or my pride. She wrapped one hand around my elbow, lifted the soaked folder from the driveway, and guided me inside, like she had already understood what I was too ashamed to say. I kept telling her I was fine, even while my shoulder shook under the wet sweater and my phone kept buzzing from the man who had just locked me out of his car. Holly put a towel around me, called the insurance office herself, and calmly explained that I had been left without transportation after an injury, so the appointment needed to be documented as delayed, not missed. She did not push for the ugly version right away. She set my papers near the heater, made coffee I barely touched, and told me her porch recording had caught enough if I wanted it saved. The word recording made my stomach twist, because in my memory I had still been trying to look married, still trying not to look like a woman abandoned in front of a neighbor. Holly only said, "June, you decide who sees it, but you should not be the only one carrying what happened." I called Monica Rains from Holly's kitchen with rainwater still dripping from my hair. Monica did not sound shocked, only practical, which somehow kept me breathing while Holly wrote each instruction on the back of an envelope. Save the original. Send nothing to him. Do not post. Do not threaten. And start a folder with every message, Monica said, and I placed Tyler's latest text under her words. That envelope became the first page of my file, right above his warning not to make a scene. By late afternoon, Tyler had turned careless into angry. His messages went from, "Did you get there?" to "Brenna thinks you are trying to punish me." Then finally to, "You are an adult with a phone. June, stop acting abandoned." I stared at that sentence beside the damp insurance packet and understood I did not have to describe what he had done. He had written it down for me. And when Brenna messaged that Tyler said our marriage was already over, I saw both lies standing side by side. The first person outside Holly's kitchen to hear about Tyler was not some stranger online. It was Holly's husband, who mentioned the rain, the folder, and the locked car while dropping his truck at Brandt Family Motors. He did not name me at first, but Nolan Pierce, Tyler's manager, knew enough when he heard the borrowed demo SUV and Cincinnati in the same sentence. Nolan called it personal until a customer forwarded a hotel photo of Tyler beside Brenna Tate, while my claim appointment sat delayed in Holly's notes. By Monday morning, the showroom had questions Tyler could not answer without making himself sound worse. Nolan asked why a family vehicle assigned for sales visits had been taken overnight to Cincinnati, and Tyler answered that my jealousy had gotten out of hand. He said I was punishing him over a rough patch, then blamed the recording before Nolan even admitted he had seen it. That was when his own defense started working against him, because innocent men do not usually explain evidence before anyone shows it. Nolan did not fire him in a hallway scene. He pulled Tyler off the family safety campaign, took away after-hours access to the demo car, and reassigned 2 customers who had asked not to work with him. Tyler called me 6 times, then left one voicemail saying, "June, you need to tell them this was misunderstood before you ruin my name." I saved it because Monica had taught me that panic tells the truth better than apologies. Brenna's message came later that evening, smaller than I expected and sadder than I wanted it to be. She wrote that Tyler had told her we were separated in every way except paperwork, and that he had never mentioned my crash, my appointment, or his promise to drive me. I did not answer her, but I forwarded the email to Monica because the date, the wording, and Tyler's earlier texts lined up too cleanly to ignore. By then, Tyler was not losing control because I had chased him. He was losing it because every person he had lied to was holding a different piece of the same story. Monica allowed one call only after Tyler agreed in writing that she would be on the line and the conversation would be recorded where required. I sat at Holly's kitchen table again, with the damp insurance folder now dry beside my coffee and Brenna's email printed under Tyler's voicemail. Tyler came on sounding tired, but not sorry, and the first thing he wanted to know was what Nolan had seen. He did not ask if my shoulder was healing, whether the appointment had been fixed, or why his wife had needed a neighbor to get through the rain. I asked him one question because Monica had told me not to argue with a man who kept creating evidence. If Holly had not come outside, would you have turned around for me? Tyler? The silence lasted long enough for Holly's refrigerator to hum louder than his breathing. And then he snapped that I always knew how to set traps with innocent questions. Monica wrote something on her yellow pad, and I knew his answer had landed exactly where it needed to land. Tyler tried to soften after that, the way he always did when anger stopped working. He said Brenna had been a mistake, that he had felt lonely, that I made our marriage feel like a list of things he failed before he even walked in the door. Then came the condition hidden inside the apology, because he needed me to tell Nolan the recording looked worse than it was. I looked at the printed message where he had called me an adult with a phone and felt the last piece of confusion leave me. I told him I was not trying to make him look bad. I was done helping him look better than his choices. His voice sharpened, and he said people would get tired of standing with me once they heard how cold I could be. Monica lifted one finger before I answered, so I kept my voice steady and told him every conversation about the house, the claim, and our marriage would go through her office now. When I ended the call, I did not feel powerful or dramatic, only clean. Like I had finally stepped out of a story where Tyler always got to name the damage and decide whether it counted. Monica filed the divorce papers before Tyler found a softer version of himself to perform. There was no dramatic courthouse entrance, just scanned documents, dated texts, Holly's saved recording, Brenna's email, Nolan's notes, and my claim folder finally dry in a clean envelope. I asked for the house temporarily because my car was still being repaired and my classroom was 10 minutes away. Monica kept everything plain. Property, communication, safety, and the simple fact that Tyler had walked away when help was already promised. Tyler tried telling friends I had trapped him with a neighbor and a bad mood. That story died every time another date landed beside it. The recording showed him locking the car. His own messages showed he knew I had no ride. Brenna confirmed he had called our marriage finished, and the showroom log showed the demo SUV was never approved for Cincinnati. Nobody had to call him a liar when the paperwork did it without raising its voice. Nolan moved him away from customers first. Then, from the family safety campaign, he used to smile through every Saturday. 2 buyers asked for another salesperson, and one wrote that she would not buy a family car from a man who treated family like a scheduling conflict. Tyler called that unfair, but he had built his paycheck on trust he had not earned at home. When Brandt Family Motors took his name off the next ad, he left me a voicemail saying I had cost him everything, and Monica saved it under continued contact. Brenna did not walk away clean, but she did walk away awake. Her hotel moved her off couple events for a while because guests had started whispering, and Tyler blamed her for answering Monica instead of protecting him. She sent one final email saying she should have questioned a man who needed secrecy to feel understood. I did not write back because the apology belonged to her conscience, not my private recovery that week. By then, Tyler was living in a short-term rental, calling the emptiness my fault, while every box he packed proved the truth, had simply followed him home. The divorce ended without a courthouse scene anyone could turn into gossip. Monica walked me through each signature, and the settlement stayed plain. The house would be sold, repair costs tied to the crash handled, and Tyler would communicate only through counsel until final. He kept asking for one private conversation, but every request arrived beside another complaint about his job. Brenna, or how people looked at him. Monica closed the folder and said, the best ending was sometimes the one that left a man no room to rewrite it. A month later, Tyler waited outside the school with 2 coffees and the careful face he used when he wanted credit for showing up. I saw him before he saw me, standing near the curb where parents picked up their kids, holding peace like something bought on the way over. He said, June, I lost Brenna. I lost my place at work, and I do not know how one mistake became my whole life. I looked at the cup in his hand and remembered rain, locked door, and the folder sliding across driveway. So I told him everything from there went through Monica. I moved into a bright apartment 10 minutes from school, with clean windows, quiet mornings, and no phone lighting up like a warning. Holly came for dinner once a month. Nolan kept Tyler away from the family campaign, and Brenna disappeared from his story when she realized love had only been another version of being used. Some evenings, I still felt old grief rise when rain tapped the glass, but it passed when I saw my dry coat by the door. I did not become someone new after Tyler left me standing there. I only came back to the woman I had left behind for too long.